Hey guys, it's Stanley. This is the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, California. And it's filled with hundreds of amazing cars and vehicles, some seen in TV shows and movies. But we're only here for one car, and it's this. The screen-used car seen in Back to the Future. This is referred to as the hero vehicle, so it's the main DeLorean used for all the close-ups and all the big scenes. It's the main car.
I thought I'd start the video off here. Looking at this car at the Peterson Automobile Museum, there's the time circuits. There's the flux capacitor back there, fluxing. Now, let's go check out the locations of where Back to the Future was filmed and see what they look like 40 years in the future, aka our present day. You may be thinking, but Stanley, there are a million Back to the Future filming location videos already on YouTube. But maybe we can find a location that's never been seen before. Also, I kind of, sort of have a family connection to the movie. I'll explain it later. Let's go. We've only got so much time. Welcome to what is arguably the most famous Burger King in the entire world. This was where Doc Brown had his laboratory. Basically, it was an old carriage house. They built a facade of an A-frame carriage house right here.
This was not a real structure, it was built just for the movie and torn down right after filming was completed. But that drainage seam in the road, that's still there to this day.
In 1985, Doc lives on John F. Kennedy Drive. In 1955, the street was called Riverside Drive. And in real life, this is Victory Boulevard.
Marty exits Doc's lab using a side door and he walks past a cement fence.
This wall, I believe, is the same wall as seen in the film, has the same pattern.
They both have 4 levels of bricks, then cement. It could be the same wall.
Marty kicks open the gate, and he skates down this way. He goes past 8 parking spots, makes a hard left, goes up this little walkway, grabs onto the back of a truck, and heads down Victory Boulevard. And today, just like in the movie, there are 8 spots here.
So besides the building getting remodeled a bit, everything else around here is pretty much the same as it was 40 years ago.
Behind Doc's lab was a huge Toys R Us. You can see the Toys R Us colors on the top of the building.
Yep, there's the old Toys R Us colors. You can also see the Toys R Us sign at the end of the scene. And currently, this big building is a Hobby Lobby.
And forget betting on sports using the sports almanac like in part 2. In 1985, Marty could have gone to that Toys R Us and bought G.I. Joe toys, Transformers, the last of the Kenner Star Wars, Mask toys, and he could have sold them 40 years in the future. He was skating past a gold mine. Let's go inside this famous Burger King and get ourselves a snack. All right, I try not to eat too much fast food. We now know 40 years in the future that there's not much nutritional value to this. It's full of seed oils, fillers, gluten. But if you put your mind to it, your stomach can accomplish anything.
I absolutely devoured that burger. I swallowed that thing down my gullet quicker than a DeLorean handles a vial of plutonium. It seems I'm not the only one who enjoys a good Whopper. Doc Brown's lab is full of Burger King trash inside and out. I can't blame the guy though, it's super convenient. It's just outside his door. Alright, let's keep going. We got so much to do and so little time.
Welcome to Whittier, California. That's Whittier High School. In the movie Back to the Future, it was Hill Valley High. Instead of Whittier Union High School, it said Hill Valley High School in the same font. I think they used the same font because then they wouldn't have to change the font for administration.
That's my theory anyways. It was probably a cost-saving measure, plus it's a pretty darn cool looking font.
Some notable alumni of Whittier High School are former President Richard Nixon and First Lady Pat Nixon. Another notable alumni is director and producer John Lasseter of Pixar. But more important and special to me is my parents went to this high school. What I'm trying to say is, I'm practically Marty McFly.
So that is the weird roundabout family connection that I have to Back to the Future. And they're having a special Back to the Future themed event here today at the high school with DeLoreans, cosplayers, and they're giving tours of the campus. And my mom, my aunt, my cousin, my uncle, and other family members who are also Whittier High alumni are here with me.
Someday, Jennifer, someday. Now, sadly, my dad passed away a few years back. And he told me the last time we were here in 2017 that there is a walkway underneath the street. And there's the walkway that he and a lot of kids would take to cross under the road and then up into the school. So I've been here many times over the years since I was a kid, and I remember before these gates were even around this school. Better get used to these bars, kids. I think these bars were added sometime in the mid-90s after the Columbine incident.
Alright, enough jibber jabber, let's get back to the movie. The camera pans down and you see Marty skate right up to the administration building.
Feel the power of love. Don't take money, don't take fame.
Jennifer stops him from going in and lets him know that Strickland is looking for him. As they pass by the entrance, there's a lot of graffiti in 1985. HVHS for Hill Valley High School sucks. And I just googled what smegma is. Don't do it. It's pretty gross. And apparently, wait, somebody's trans? Wait, was trans a thing in 1985?
Feel the power of love. Feel the power of love.
Okay, I've been here many times over the years, but I've never gone inside. Let's go inside.
Jennifer and Marty pop out from behind this corner, and as you can see, a lot has changed. The flooring has all been redone, the doors in the background have changed. A lot has been remodeled in 40 years. But Jennifer and Marty are not in the clear. They get stopped by Strickland.
They both get tardy slips. That's 4 in a row for Marty. You're a slacker, Strickland says.
You're a slacker.
And their noses touch.
Hill Valley.
There's 2 things Strickland hates: slackers and personal space. Now, both of my parents are actually Whittier High School dropouts. I'm sure Strickland would have called them slackers.
You remind me of your father when he went here. He was a slacker too.
Let's just say they had a shotgun wedding. But it all worked out.
Alright, we will come back to Whittier High School when we get to 1955. Let's keep going.
The next scene takes place inside of a gymnasium, but it wasn't filmed at Whittier High School. It was actually filmed at the McCambridge Park and Rec Center here in Burbank, California. This is where Marty and his band, the Pinheads, are trying out for the Battle of the Bands.
But when I got there, it was full of little kids, and they said I could not come in and film. They said I could come back at 5 p.m. and hopefully check out the gym before the adults start their game. So I came back exactly at 5 p.m. But when I got there, the adults were already warming up. We're gonna have to just film around them.
As you guys can see, this place gets very crowded. It's very loud in here. I hope you can hear me. And it was just over there that Huey Lewis played an uptight, nerdy teacher. He had horn-rimmed glasses. His hair was matted to the side. He was wearing a plaid suit. But who knows, this might have been the inspiration for Hip to be Square.
Which came out in 1986, 1 year after Back to the Future. Maybe this scene was the inspiration for Hip to be Square. Who knows? Okay, let's dodge some basketballs and get over to the other side of the gymnasium. Okay, check out the doors behind Marty. Look how close they look. It's amazing what the focal length of a lens can do. On my fixed 20mm lens, the doors look so far away. Behind Marty on the stage, there was a mural that said, "We the People." I think it was some kind of social justice mural, which matches the other mural across the way back in 1985, which also looked like it had something to do with social justice. Now the murals on either side are just about sports. And I love the way this big window is decorated. It's very like 1970s with these big squares. But check it out, near the top square, they actually lowered the ceiling. You can't see the top square anymore all the way. But some things never change. This little box section where people can come and check in, it's still there. That has not been remodeled. Just behind the free throw arch was where Huey Lewis and the nerds were sitting. So right about here, where this guy is shooting his free throw. And the Pinheads are playing a rocked out version of Power of Love. I wish I could play the audio, but you know, copyright. And Michael J. Fox is really playing guitar in this scene. He could really wail. The blonde guy in the Pinheads was Michael J. Fox's guitar instructor. And here is where Jennifer was standing, watching Marty audition. And I found this behind the scenes picture of Claudia Wells with Marty's guitar. That's it, she wins. She wins Battle of the Bands without even having to play a note.
All right, let's get out of here. I can barely hear myself thinking there. It's just too darn loud. The original ending to that scene had Marty replying to the judges, "What do you want, Huey Lewis?" But that joke was eventually left on the cutting room floor. I guess for audiences in the 1980s, that kind of meta humor was a little too on the nose. But Strickland, he would have loved it.
This was the entrance to the Lyons Gates subdivision in 1985.
This is very much a working class neighborhood. Now the entrance here to the Lyons Estates, some things have stayed the same, like this pole is still there, that stop sign is still there, but all these bars surrounding it have been added since 1985. Better get used to these bars, neighbors. This is the entrance to Lyons Estates in 1985. And Marty skates right down this road. But this is not the road that Marty lives on.
As he's riding down the street, Marty takes the scenic route home. Let me show you. This is where the Lyons Estates entrance would be in real life. And here's where Marty's house is in real life on Roslindale Avenue, 3 streets over. Marty skates down Sandusky Avenue and takes a right on Sunburst Street. Now instead of going straight down Sunburst to Roslindale, Marty either goes up Obeck Avenue or Urbana Avenue. Let's say he goes up Urbana Avenue. Then he takes a left on Cagle Canyon Street, then a left on Roslindale Avenue to be facing the right direction for the next scene when he arrives home.
This is the street that Marty lives on. He skates down the road, and then he goes up the curb right here, going up to his house. Now, besides a coat of paint, a new front door, and a new garage door, this house really hasn't changed that much, which is kind of a miracle in this neighborhood. That little pipe up there, it's still piping. Those guy wires are still pumping out 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. Everything looks great, just great. Those two guy wires are also the reason why I can't fly the drone around the house. You gotta stay 2,000 feet horizontally away from the guy wires. See, I follow the rules.
And then the homeowner came outside.
I wasn't planning on going up on the property. I mean, it's a private residence. And the homeowner came out, and at first I thought he was gonna get mad at me, and he was awesome. His name's Chris, and he took me up onto his property and let me line up some shots. He also had me sign a guest book, and he took some pictures of me up at the house, and he gave me some behind the scenes photos. What an awesome guy. Thanks so much, Chris.
So with the homeowner's blessing, I had a few moments to line up this shot. Check out the house in the background. It's completely covered. It is a jungle back there now. Whoever lives there now loves plants. And I asked Chris if they actually filmed inside the house, and he said no, that was all recreated on a soundstage. So when Marty's walking past the tow truck and it cuts to this shot, they are now on a soundstage. Near the end of the film, Doc drops off Marty back off at the house, and at the neighboring house behind them, you see this fence with a very intricate design. That is all gone now, as you can see. It has been replaced by this other fence structure of thick stone. This is the angle where Marty watched Doc Brown travel 30 years into the future. And here it is 40 years later, and it looks pretty much the same. There's a bunch of flowers in the way now, but this fence post still has the address, even though the fencing has been replaced. Photo courtesy homeowner Chris. Marty sneaks into the house through the side gate. And here's the best angle I could get with the car in the driveway. And Chris even took my picture in front of the gate. When Marty opens up the garage door, you see the side door of the neighboring house, which I always loved. It had a cool design, which is sadly now gone, erased from existence. It framed Claudia Wells really nicely in 1985. And you also saw it behind Elizabeth Shue in 1989. But sadly in 2025, it is only a memory. When Jennifer and Marty turn around to look at the front door, this front door was on the soundstage. But they used the real front door exterior for Back to the Future Part 2 when Biff runs out of the house. Notice the rock work, these three dark colored rocks. The rock work has not changed in 40 years. While we're here, we might as well fast forward to the very end. This is where the DeLorean backs up down the road. Pay no attention to my tripod. That's the end of the film, but we're not done. We got a lot more to see. If you've made it this far, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you.
Welcome to the City of Industry. If you want to get industrious, this is the city to do it in. And this is the Puente Hills Mall. At the start of Back to the Future, it's called the Twin Pines Mall.
Marty skates right down this entryway. And here's my recreation without a skateboard.
In 1985, this was a JCPenney, but now it's a 24-hour fitness. They've expanded the building, altered it, made it boxier. It's truly a big box store.
Now my mom and my aunt joined me this afternoon, and they were gonna go shopping in the mall, so I sent them on a mission to go find the reproduction of the Twin Pines Mall sign somewhere in this mall.
Einstein the dog was about right here. And those buildings behind them, they're much farther back than they appear on screen. I'm not sure what kind of focal length camera lens they're using, but they're much farther back there.
They also added this section in the early 2000s. But thankfully, most of the shapes of the mall's exterior are mostly the same.
Einstein is the first life form to go back in time, and Doc Brown sends the DeLorean all the way out to that pole down there called F1.
My calculations are correct. This baby hits 88 miles per hour. You're gonna see some serious...
You can see the F1 sign in this shot, and it's still F1 to this day. We are in the pole position. Okay, let's skip ahead to when Einstein returns from his voyage.
Marty and Doc are standing about 4 spaces in, and just under the F2 sign is Doc's van.
And it is still F2 in 2025. Let's skip ahead towards the end of the film for a minute when Marty is running down the same hill we saw earlier, but now he's altered time and the sign now says the Lone Pine Mall. And success! My mom texted me and her, my aunt, they found the Twin Pines Mall sign replica inside the mall. Mission accomplished.
For some reason, at the end of the movie, Marty, instead of just walking down the hill, he tumbles down the hill. I don't know if he's trying to be dramatic. Was he listening to Tears for Fears Head Over Heels on his Walkman, which also came out in 1985? Or maybe he was listening to I'll Tumble For You by Culture Club.
Either way, Marty was being pretty dramatic there. Alright, let's move on to when Doc is getting ready to go into the future.
Who knows if they've got cotton underwear in the future? I'm allergic to all synthetics.
We learned 2 things in this scene. 1, Doc Brown is allergic to polyester. How he made it through in the 1970s, I have no idea. And 2, that if you're a Libyan, you're most likely a terrorist. Thanks to Back to the Future, whenever I hear about Libyans or the country of Libya, I think of terrorists.
Now I know there are millions of amazing Libyans and I would love to visit Libya someday, but Back to the Future, it really did a number on my developing mind. So this hillside is where the Libyans entered the mall area. After doing a couple of spins, the Libyans chased Marty down this section of the parking lot. And this is the route that Marty would have taken to go back in time. Thankfully, we hit 88 miles per hour and now we're in Santa Clarita, California. That was close.
Welcome to the Golden Oak Ranch. This movie ranch and backlot was purchased, all this land, by the Walt Disney Company in 1959. This is where they filmed the Spin and Marty segments to the original Mickey Mouse Club, where they filmed Old Yeller, the Apple Dumpling Gang, and so much more. But we're here today because this is the location of Old Man Peabody's farm. Look at all those pine trees. I guess all that pine breeding has worked out for Old Man Peabody. This is a private ranch. I've emailed them twice trying to get in, but they have not gotten back to me. They're treating my emails like Doc Brown treated Marty's letter.
I refuse to accept the responsibility!
Then the craziest thing happened. Right after filming that, the Golden Oak Ranch, they wrote me back, and they said that the barn location was being used by another production company, but if it was available, they probably would have let me on the ranch. I nearly got on the ranch.
Thankfully, somebody who has been to the ranch geotagged a couple of pictures near the barn. This is a picture of the barn from 2016. And here's what the barn looks like currently from the Golden Oak Ranch website. As you can see, the barn changes over time, it gets dismantled, and it gets altered to whatever production is using it. You might recognize this barn from The Office. This was Moe's barn, and all of Shue Farms was filmed here also at Golden Oak Ranch. Getting back to the Future, after Marty crashes through the barn, he comes down this road, and I believe this is the road that he makes the sharp U-turn on. As he goes up the road, smashes into one of the pine trees, and alters time forever.
Now I thought about flying my drone over the Golden Oak Ranch, but I don't want to burn any bridges, but I have an idea.
Here's a map of the Golden Oak Ranch on their website showing the boundaries of their property. It looks like their property ends near this looped road. And here's a Google map showing the Golden Oak Ranch. There's the looped road, and here's a publicly accessible tree called the Oak of Golden Dreams. So this clearing right here would be right on the edge of the Golden Oak Ranch property. So here's my plan. From the Golden Oak Ranch entrance, I drive east down Placerita Canyon Road for about 2 miles. Then I take a right into the Placerita Canyon State Park. From there I park and walk on foot down the Heritage Trail. I go through this tunnel underneath the road, past the Oak of Golden Dreams, get through all this brush and trees to this clearing, fly the drone straight up in the air, making sure that I don't go on Golden Oak Ranch property, and maybe, just maybe, I can see the barn location with the drone.
All right, we made it underneath the roadway to the Oak of Golden Dreams. In 1842, Francisco Lopez took a nap under this tree. While sleeping, Lopez had a vision of floating along a river of pure gold. When he awoke, he dug up some wild onions, and clinging to the roots of the onions were gold flakes. That started the gold rush in California. That tree is what makes the gold rush possible. All right, I think if we go on this trail just a little farther, we can continue with my plan. Well, after getting back here, there's just too much thick grass for me. I don't want to take the chance of getting bit by a tick or getting Lyme disease. Also, I see a sign over there. I think it says posted, no trespassing. So yeah, I think we're gonna have to give up on using the drone to try and see Old Man Peabody's farm.
And I can't fly the drone from where I'm currently standing because technically I'm still in a California state park and I would need a special permit or face a serious fine.
All right, I'm going to do a thorough tick check before I get in the car. So let's make like a historic tree and get out of here.
When I got back to the car, I did the most intense tick check of my life. But I was excited because if my calculations are correct, the next location has not been seen on camera in 40 years. Let's go.
This is the roadway that Marty uses to escape Old Man Peabody's farm. I don't think this location has been seen in relation to Back to the Future in over 40 years. I looked at a bunch of other location videos and I did not see this location. This might be a brand new lost location to this great movie. Marty comes tearing up this roadway, goes through the gate, and peels off down the road.
So much of this spot is just like it was in 1985. The guy wires up on top of the hill. On the left is the single power line. There were 3 power lines on the right in 1985. Now there are 4 power lines. And that's not the only thing still the same. When Marty drives out, notice the shape of the hillside and this power pole right here. That hillside and power pole are still there, and they've added a second power pole over the years. The focal length lens on my iPhone camera really makes the background pop.
And what's really cool, if you look at this gated area on Google Maps,
and go back in time to the first Google car to drive past here in 2007, you can see the original gate post from the movie. This post with the Beware of Dog sign, it's hard to see in this grainy 2007 photo, but you can make out the shape of it right here. This is back when they only had one power pole right here. Google Maps is time travel. When Marty leaves the Twin Pines Ranch, he only drives a few moments before reaching the next location. But we're gonna have to drive about an hour and a half to get there.
Marty is tearing down the road. When something catches his eye, he slams on the brakes and he realizes that the subdivision that he lives on isn't even built yet.
It all looks very much the same, except now there are power lines on the right-hand side of the road.
And check this out, there's one thing still here after 40 years, and it's this piece of wood. You can see this piece of wood holding up the Lionsgate signs in the movie. This indentation right here is where a metal pole once was. It's been standing out here in the sun for over 40 years. My God, has it been that long? And off to the right is the sign for the new homes. It says, "Live in the homes of tomorrow, today." And I've never noticed this, but that's Marty's house in the sign. Somehow I never realized that. And what's even cooler is that those 3 metal rods are still here to this day. These are the rods that were holding up the sign. This is heavy. It's what I call heavy metal.
The jagged hillside behind Marty is this jagged hillside right here. But unfortunately, the DeLorean is out of plutonium, so Marty has to push it behind the Lyons Estate advertisement. And walk 2 miles to Hill Valley. That scene wasn't filmed over by the Lionsgate entrance. They actually filmed that way farther back down the road, about right here. So Marty is walking back towards the Lyons Estate's entrance.
I'm pretty sure that bush in 1985 is that tree. Amazing what can grow in over 40 years.
And check it out, Hill Valley has a water tower.
And once you get behind the tree, you can see the water tower poking out above the hill. That's the water tower to the California Institute for Women. Who knew Hill Valley had a prison? Now every time you watch the movie, you're gonna see that water tower and think of the California Institute for Women. Maybe I should pop into the prison, find me a baddie. I gotta find my own Jennifer. And speaking of Jennifer,
the original Jennifer was actually Melora Hardin. Yes, Jan from The Office was the original Jennifer. But when original Marty McFly Eric Stoltz was fired, Melora Hardin was too tall for the newly hired Michael J. Fox. So Claudia Wells got the role, and honestly, you can't even imagine anybody else as Jennifer in part 1 besides Claudia Wells. But when Claudia had to drop out for part 2, I almost can't imagine anybody else playing Jennifer besides Elizabeth Shue.
Which Jennifer do you prefer, Claudia Wells or Elizabeth Shue? It's a tough question. Some people stay up thinking about Israel, Iran, are we gonna be in World War III? I'm thinking about Elizabeth Shue or Claudia Wells. That's what keeps me up at night.
In January of 2024, some family and myself, we went to Universal Studios Hollywood and we paid for the VIP tour. That $300 ticket gives you front access to all the rides, but it also gives you an exclusive extended studio tour. And the first thing I did when I saw the tour guide, I said, would we be able to drive through Amblin Entertainment? And she looked at me and said, of course not, they're a private company. But I had to shoot my shot. So I called Amblin Entertainment on the phone, and I should have recorded the call, and I told the secretary that there's something on their lot I would love to see. And it's this, the wishing well from Back to the Future. She turned me down and said no, they do not do any tours. I said, would you be able to go out there, just take me a picture and email it to me? And she rejected me again. This is as close as I got to Amblin Productions that day. But I found this video from 9 years ago when somebody from Entertainment Weekly went on a tour of Universal Studios with Steven Spielberg, and in the background and a couple of shots, you can see the well. So cool that this is where that picture was taken, that plays such a pivotal part in the movie, was photographed right here on the Amblin lot at Universal Studios. Eventually, we made our way through the backlot and to Courthouse Square. But first, a little history on Courthouse Square. Courthouse Square was originally built for the 1948 movie An Act of Murder. And talk about your clock tower, that thing is way up there. But I think that top part is just a matte painting. And they really incorporated these brand new town square sets in this 1948 movie. And as you can see, these buildings are just facades that change and alter to whatever the production calls for. That's movie magic. The town square has been seen in numerous movies and TV shows like The Twilight Zone, Leave It to Beaver, Gremlins, and after appearing in 1962's To Kill a Mockingbird, the area was named Mockingbird Square. And it was called Mockingbird Square until the success of 1985's Back to the Future, when it was renamed Courthouse Square. Now, numerous fires have happened on this backlot over the years, but the most devastating were the 1990 fire that destroyed most of the surrounding sets. Somehow the courthouse, the square itself, and this row of facades survived. Everything else was destroyed. That fire was set by an arsonist, and it also destroyed the Dick Tracy sets, the historic Ben-Hur sets. It was awful. But wait, there's more. An equally destructive 2008 fire, this time an accidental fire, destroyed nearly the identical same sets on Courthouse Square. The towering courthouse survived again, so much of what we will be seeing has been rebuilt twice since Back to the Future was filmed here. This is where Marty skated into Hill Valley in 1985, and as you can see, nothing really looks the same since it was rebuilt twice. On the corner of the street in 1985, there was some kind of aerobics center. Now they placed a used car gas station facade here, which was the aerobics center in 1985 and the diner in 1955. On this side of the street, we have some original facades, like this building right here with the single door and one window. And here it is today. Let me get around the tour bus. There's the single door, there's the one window, and you can dress these facades any way you want. Right now on the second floor it has 3 windows and a roof, but in 1985 it only had 2 windows and no roof. As Marty's skating past the aerobic studio, you see a lot of trees and greenery around the corner. And there are still a lot of trees around the corner to this day. And you can still see the basic shape of these 3 facades in our current timeline as well. And on the corner here is where the old woman was sitting, trying to sign people up to save the clock tower. And this is where something truly awful happens. Marty's sitting on the bench right here, talking to Jennifer, and right as they're about to kiss,
Save the clock tower!
they get clock blocked.
Save the clock tower!
And again, at the end of the movie, Marty's about to kiss Jennifer, and this time, he gets dock blocked. Poor guy can't catch a break.
This is the corner that Marty was peeking around.
We're now in 1955, and I asked one of the tour guides if she could film me crossing the street. I didn't realize she was going to be walking with me and give me so much headroom, but we only had total about maybe 4 minutes back here, so I had no time for do-overs. Let's look at some highlights from 1955. I wasn't able to get in the facade where the diner was located, but I was able to get into a neighboring facade just down the road. And it was cool to see Courthouse Square from inside another building. We all had a great day at Universal Studios Hollywood. Marty follows his dad out of the diner to our next location.
Okay, hear me out. I believe this is where that giant bush was that Marty pops out of. We are on Bushnell Avenue in Pasadena after all. Now I'm not sure what kind of focal length they had,
But I'm positive I'm at the exact spot where that bush was.
how I know that, I'll tell you later on.
Next, we see Marty running past this house. Then right by this very big tree.
Marty runs right past this tree, and he notices his dad, out on a limb, literally, with a pair of binoculars, checking out a girl changing across the street. He's a peeping Tom. Catching your dad up in a tree with a pair of binoculars is a little creepy, but thankfully it all worked out in the end. He wasn't barking up the wrong tree, and he kept it PG. His McFly wasn't down. I'll see myself out. Marty tries to save his dad from getting hit. This is where George McFly pops up unscathed, thanks to Marty. And a lot of people, when they come here, they like to go out in the middle of the road and lie down. I am not lying down in the middle of the
Hey, I had to do it. Oh, and the neighbors saw me. How embarrassing. I feel like running off like George McFly right now.
Now, when Marty gets rescued by Lorraine's dad and taken into the house, this is not the house that they shot the interiors in.
I'll take you to that other house in a minute. But first, let's fast forward to when Marty's chasing George back to George McFly's house.
So the camera pans back and to the right, going past these 4 trees and a light pole, and leads us to the McFly home.
This scene is also why I know where this large hedge was. Let's look at what clues we have to work with. There's a tree here with vines around it, another tree in the middle with no vines at all, and then a third tree with vines wrapped around it. So we have 3 trees, kind of a vine sandwich. Now if we go back to this scene with George running home, we see 3 trees, one with vines, one with no vines, another one with vines, and the next tree is the tree that George climbs to look at Lorraine. So this would be the hedge right here that Marty pops out of. It's gotta be that hedge. And then the homeowner came outside. But she was cool, and she let me go on the side of her house to line up this shot. And it looks so much like it did in 1985. Notice the rock work right here, and the house in the background? It looks like it's been frozen in time. Now, I didn't go in the homeowner's backyard. I didn't want to intrude too much. But notice this horseshoe-shaped walkway that you can see in the movie. If we go on Google Maps, we can see that the pavement still makes that horseshoe shape.
Marty comes back to the McFly residence later that night and tries to convince his dad to take Lorraine to the dance with the power of Eddie Van Halen. That'll make you jump.
The tune was called Out the Window, and it was originally for the 1984 film The Wildlife, which ironically starred Eric Stoltz and Leah Thompson. So Universal just recycled that song for Back to the Future.
On the right-hand column that said McFly's.
And the neighboring home is still there with the same basic shape, just a different color now.
Now get this, the interiors to Lorraine's house were shot at the house next door, which makes George and Lorraine next door neighbors. Now here's where it gets weird. My parents were next door neighbors. Do you know what this means? I'm pretty much Marty McFly.
This home, which is currently on the market for $3.9 million, has had its interiors photographed for a number of home listing sites, and thankfully the website, I Am Not a Stalker, has saved a bunch of them. But what's really cool is some of the pictures for the house listings. They match up pretty well with the movie. So here's the stairway where Lorraine, Marty, and Lorraine's mom walk down. And they walk down into the living room area. It's definitely more modern now, but the basic shapes are all still there. And from there they walk into the kitchen where most of the scene takes place. And right over here in the corner in the crib is where baby jailbird Joey was. Looking at the living room, behind the TV you can see 2 windows and there's a fireplace. The fireplace and the windows are still there, and now there's a TV on the wall, so you can watch Jackie Gleason. And behind Lorraine here in the corner you can see a cabinet, and the cabinet is still there. So very cool that this old craftsman home still looks very similar after all these years.
All right, that was fun. I want to give a shout out to the neighbors here on Bushnell Avenue. I met 3 of the neighbors and they were so nice, so welcoming, so friendly, and they were very proud of the movie that was filmed on their street. All right, let's keep going. Marty walks up to 1640 Riverside Drive and notices Doc's lab. He remembers it. But he looks over and he sees the mansion that Doc once lived in.
pretty wild that in 1985, this would all be a Burger King and a shopping center.
In real life, this is the Gamble House. It was built in 1908 by architect brothers Charles and Henry Green. The Green brothers designed this home for David and Mary Gamble. David was the son of James Gamble, who in 1837 partnered with his brother-in-law, William Proctor, to form the soap and candle company, Procter & Gamble, which is still going strong to this day. The Gamble House is recognized as a masterpiece of the American arts and crafts movement.
But this is not the door that Marty knocks on. They filmed that at another house here in Pasadena that I'll take you to shortly. They also filmed another scene of Doc running down the hill here towards his laboratory. And they did film that part here. These are the same doors. And this old carriage house is now the Gamble bookstore. But what about Doc Brown's front door? Let's go to that house right now.
This is the Robert R. Blacker House. It was also designed by Charles and Henry Green. Those brothers did it all. I bet they made the other architects green with envy. This beautiful craftsman masterpiece was built in 1907. Now, we can't go inside. This is a private residence, and judging from Google Street View, they don't want anybody seeing their historic home.
I mean, check it out. It is blurred from just about every angle possible. They don't want nobody to see their historic home. But Google Maps missed one spot, and it's right here. Gotcha!
And the reason we're here is because the interiors of Doc Brown's mansion were filmed inside this house.
So all those wood-lined walls and the wood beams are the inside of the Blacker house.
And get this, when you see Marty knock on Doc Brown's front door in 1955, he's knocking on that door.
Notice all the shapes of the wood pieces on the door and the design. It's this door right here in the middle. And if we compare the door of the Blacker house to the door at the Gamble house, they're similar, designed by the same architects, but they are distinctly different.
This neighborhood is gorgeous, and I love all these old lampposts. I feel like I'm in Singing in the Rain or back in La La Land.
We are back at Hill Valley High School. It's 1955 now. The school is so clean. And 40 years later, it still looks great here. They really cleaned this place up. Let's go back inside the school. Now all day here, they're giving guided tours and it's very busy here. But I'm gonna try my best to line up some shots. This is where Marty and Doc first see George McFly at school. And this is the stairway behind them. And down this hallway is where George McFly was being tormented by his classmates. The old lighting has all been modernized and updated. This is the hallway where George McFly was unknowingly wearing a "Kick Me" sign. And it's a real kick being here. This door in the movie is this door right here. Marty and his dad walk down the hallway, past the stairwell we saw earlier, and go right past this curved corner where the Enchantment Under the Sea poster was located. Around the corner is where Lorraine's locker was located. The lockers are gone now. They've taken them out and made classrooms or some other kind of office space. This is about where Doc was standing as he was watching George strike out with Lorraine. Lorraine and her friends run around the corner right past him. Marty follows George into the cafeteria. This is about where George and Marty were sitting. This is the same space, but the cafeteria was demolished and rebuilt after the 1987 Whittier Narrows earthquake. It was originally classified as a 6.1 magnitude earthquake, but later downgraded to a 5.9. But it did significant damage in Whittier and Whittier High School. With all that said, this would be the general area where Lorraine was sitting with her friends, and where later she was being annoyed by Biff.
In real life, Whittier High's mascot is the Cardinal. And Back to the Future, they are the Hill Valley Bulldogs.
George McFly has a Hill Valley Bulldogs book cover. We see a poster that says Bulldogs vs. Indians. And in 1985, Jennifer also has a Hill Valley Bulldogs book cover. Then I got to thinking, in the show Saved by the Bell, Bayside High's arch rivals are the Valley Bulldogs. Could the Valley of Saved by the Bell be the Hill Valley Bulldogs? Oh, it gets better. In the 2021 reimagining of Saved by the Bell, they use Courthouse Square as the outside of Bayside High School. And in this scene, Slater, Jesse, Zach, and Kelly are in the courtyard trying to dig up the Bayside time capsule. Did I just discover a rift in the space-time continuum?
This is the Hollywood United Methodist Church. This is where the Enchantment Under the Sea dance took place. They did not film this at the Whittier High School gym.
This is where Marvin Berry and the Starlighters performed.
Who knew it was in a church? I guess they were a gospel band. They filmed all those scenes inside the church's gym. I didn't even know churches had a gym. I guess the priests here like to work on their fadeaway. Let's go inside. When we first see Marvin Berry and the Starlighters, they're playing the song Night Train, which was #1 on the R&B charts in 1952 for jazz saxophonist Jimmy Forrest.
As the camera pans through the gymnasium, you can see the undersea theming. There's clamshells, bubbles, fish, they went all out. Today the gymnasium is pretty empty except for some lights hanging from the ceiling.
If Back to the Future took place in the 1970s, they could have used that disco ball. And Doc Brown, he would have hated all of the polyester.
But the stage is themed to Back to the Future, and I feel like I'm at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And there's a drumhead here signed by the cast members from the band, and it looks so much like the screen-used drumhead. Most likely it's not the screen-used drumhead, but either way, it looks great. The band is wrapping up their first set, and George McFly realizes that it's already 9 o'clock. He's got to get out to the parking lot to rescue Lorraine. Now in real life, the Hollywood United Methodist Church is 27 miles from Whittier High School. It would take George about 5 hours to run there. That's one heck of a run to the school's quad. Marty and Lorraine park right about here. They drive into the school along this curved pathway. And today there's a classic car parked here as well. Marty thinks George is there, when surprise, it's Biff. Now try not to get distracted here, but behind Lorraine is a tree. Yeah, there's a tree right there. And there's the tree today. Billy Zane and his goons haul Marty off. They're actually running up this way. But the very next shot actually takes place on the side of this building. Now here's where I messed up. There's a lot of people back here, they were giving a tour, so I thought I'd come back later on. But when I came back, I was locked out, they had locked the gates. But when I was there, I quickly got this shot. You can see the ironwork around the window is still there. And where the car was parked, you could no longer open the doors because there's now a fence here. That's the fence that locked me out. But if you want to see this location and more, I met a handful of content creators and they were all super nice. Like Bruce Murdoch of Then and Now Filming Locations, Brian Copel of Reel to Reel Locations, Randy of Big Bake on the Move, and the one and only German in Venice. And they were all super helpful, really nice, and it was cool just to see their process and how they worked. It was neat seeing so many people being so creative. Alright, George has got to save Lorraine. No wonder George looks tired. Bro just ran a marathon, 27 miles. Here's where the car was rockin'. And as you can see, the car today, they should have moved it a little bit more forward to get it just in the right spot. And here's where the fight all went down, right in front of these three trees. The building they're walking in front of is the Whittier High Library.
Okay, good to know.
But we're not out of the woods yet, because we gotta get back to the dance, because if George and Lorraine don't dance, then they don't kiss, and if they don't kiss, then Marty's history.
Marty McFly gets recruited to play in the band to keep the dance going, and Marvin Berry sings Earth Angel. Earth Angel, Earth Angel, will you be mine? Knowing that this was sung in the gym of a church gives that song a whole new meaning.
The music has finally got everyone dancing, and George and Lorraine better kiss soon or Marty's gonna fade away. Here's the area where George and Lorraine were dancing. And this is also where George fell into his old ways, loses his backbone, and loses his girl. But the new and improved, assertive George returns. He pushes the guy out of the way, grabs Lorraine, plants one on his future wife, and now she marries him not because she feels sorry for him, but because she respects him. That's the best storyline in Back to the Future.
Marty went from being cooked to playing something that really cooks. Chuck, this is Marvin. Barry, your cousin Barry. Marvin Berry calls his cousin Chuck Berry to have him listen to this new song that Marty McFly is playing on the stage called Johnny Be Good, which came out in 1958, which works out perfectly with the Back to the Future timeline of 1955. So basically, Chuck Berry plagiarized his own song. Who knew Chuck Berry was a plagiarist?
One thing I never realized, this area is just off to the left of the stage. I always thought it was like behind the stage or in some back room area.
And Marty is wailing on his guitar. He's getting in touch with his inner Eddie Van Halen. He's jumping off amps. He's doing fret tapping. Sliding on his back, playing guitar. Then he slides in for an amazing solo finish.
The crowd is stunned. Strickland's standing right about here, and he's holding his ears like, you're just too darn loud. I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet.
But your kids are gonna love it.
Marty exits stage right. The door he walks out of was locked today. I tried it. When he gets to the bottom of the stairs, he's talking to Lorraine, and there's a hole in the plaster. And that hole is still there in the plaster to this day. Then Marty goes to exit right here, and I got completely the wrong angle. I should have been back farther, but you know, I was tired. It was a long day. I know that's no excuse. Go easy on me.
I want to give a big shout out to the Hollywood Methodist Church. They were so accommodating. They opened up the gym for me, let me spend as much time as I wanted in there, and they didn't even try to convert me. That's a bonus.
But we're not done yet. We gotta get Marty home. Back in Courthouse Square, Doc tells Marty that he painted a white line down the road for him to start at.
I painted a white line on the street way over there.
He wasn't joking, it is way down there. In real life, Doc's starting line is almost 9 miles away from Courthouse Square. This is where Doc painted the Start Here sign right here in the middle of the road. And that light pole in the scene, it's still there. You can see the top of it just behind the bus.
And unfortunately, these buses are right here blocking my view of the light pole that is still here. The tree has been removed and so has the bench. But they were here until about 2016.
But if we go on Google Maps and go back to 2016, we can see that the tree was still there. Along with the bench, it's not the one from the movie, but there was a bench here at that time also. I really like the 2021 Google Map, even though the tree's no longer in it. There's no cars or anything in the way, and it's nice and clear.
So here's the light pole. There used to be a bench right over here, along with the tree, and then the Bluebird Motel sign was up here on the hill.
The Hill Valley Bluebird Motel sign was just a prop for the movie, and sadly the tree is gone.
It's a real shame about that tree, which stood about right here. They should have put a fence around it, kind of like the Oak of Golden Dreams. But the city of Los Angeles said no, and they erased it from existence.
The city created a trail that you can run up, but at least the light pole is still here. And speaking of light poles, have I told you guys how much I love light poles? Okay, enough goofing around.
This is where Marty got out of the car, put the lightning pole in the DeLorean. He checked that the flux capacitor was fluxing, and then he took off. Once Marty takes off to hit 88 miles an hour, hit that lightning rod, and go home, there's some very funny editing right here.
While Marty's racing down the street, Doc is back at Courthouse Square trying to connect the two cables to help send Marty home.
Marty zooms past that tree. I'm trying to not get killed out here, so it's really hard to match up the exact angle.
Marty's been driving for a good half mile at least, and Doc sees his lights racing into Courthouse Square. You even see the DeLorean going past the businesses in Courthouse Square. But when Marty steps on the gas, we're back at where he started. There's the Bluebird Motel sign, there's the bench, there's the light pole I was dancing on. Yep, some funny editing took place right here. But hey, that's movie magic. Maybe they didn't get all the shots they wanted to that day. Maybe they forgot to get that shot. Or sometimes, the wrong shot works. And Marty finally makes it home.
Welcome to Carmel by the Sea. That is the Silvestri Vineyards tasting room. Yes, Alan Silvestri, the composer of Back to the Future. Not only is he an award-winning composer, he's also a vintner, which means he makes wine. Let's go inside and taste some of his wine.
Back to the Future wouldn't be nearly as good without the amazing score of Alan Silvestri. And at the tasting room, there's a screen showing the posters of all the movies that he's done the scores for. And it's amazing how prolific Alan Silvestri is. He's done so many amazing scores. The server told me that Alan lives just a few blocks away and that he stops in all the time. I might have to visit this place more often. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. It was a real beast to edit and piece together in some coherent way. But as Doc says, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Alright, thanks so much for watching. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And don't worry, I called an Uber, because where I'm going, I'm not gonna need roads. Oh, that's good. Alright, I'll see you guys in the future.
Bye!